A Montreal Screwjob, I feel like, is something that's talked about often, but it's never
Hmm.
really talked about of what it affects other people. Because we always talk about Sean, Brett, Vince, Earl
Right,
Hebner. Okay,
right.
Earl Hebner was a referee. It falls on him as well. But what did that mean for people like you? Is there suddenly this like glancing eye of can I trust all referees now? Is there some sort of misconception there of mistrust?
There is about mistrust from everybody going around. Like, I mean, Taker had heat with Vince. Taker was hot. Like there was certain cliques at that time. Like that didn't really get along. And Taker had a lot of respect for Brett at that time. Brett was a good family man too, and things that happened. Just there was, I'm sure, trust issues all the way around. I mean, I remember me and Tony Timmel were stuck getting changed, and we were stuck in this room where Taker and a couple of boys came up with him, and he came up on Vince, and they were having some words, and we're stuck in this room in the open door. We didn't want to move because we don't want to be seen. Shit, we're up against the wall. We're like, shit was like, what's he saying? I'm like, fucking Taker's hot. I'm like, I don't know what he's saying, but he's hot. And I'm trying, we're not trying to get busted in the fucking because they're right there in the hallway. Um, it was just Brett was going around kicking doors down, trying to kick in doors. He's pissed off backstage, uh, looking for who.
Of course.
So I remember then Vince came back and Brett hit Vince, in the hallway. Game and I, it was a lot of mistrust everywhere, but business went on. I mean, it was a shitty way. You're looking at Brett at that time. I want to say, God, I mean, if I started in 85, 86, like he was in the business, I mean, 15 years, I think, for WWE, WWF at the time, like working
Yeah.
hard, you know, um, and making the company money. I mean, yeah, I mean, here's like, there's a lot of pictures up here. Like, let me see if I can even show you this one. There's one in a corner there. Over in the corner, it's Cape Town, South Africa, the front page. Brett
Oh, yep.
working with Baker, 1996 in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm refereeing that match. There's another one in South Africa up there. Like, you know, working with all those guys, and those guys had tremendous respect for each other. And that was 1997, maybe South Africa, because we did two tours in 96 and 97. And that was right almost before the screw job that South Africa. And then, Brett was running an angle with Taker for the longest time. Um, it was hard because there was times where Sean didn't want to do the job for Brett, and then Brett was like, "Well, I'm not dropping this strap here in fucking Canada for him," like,
Yeah.
and them two weren't getting along at the time. I see them in interviews now and everything. I'm sure bygones are bygones, of course, after all these years.
Yeah.
But it kind of hurt because to see Brett finish off his career with WWF and then go to WCW, and he really didn't do anything too much down there in WCW,
No.
and then never really came back and had to really, I thought, the go out he should have had. Like, and neither did I. So I mean, hey, it happens to us.
Right. I guess we don't get to choose our endings on
That's correct, right?
the path that we've been living. But with you as a referee, was there an issue after, like move past that night of Montreal? Is there an issue with referees in general of people going like, well, now I'm in this match and I'm the Intercontinental Champion. Is my hero going to screw me over here? Like,
No,
did that turn
no,
into an issue or that's just nothing?
no. It was one time scenario where Brett and Sean wasn't getting
Okay.
along. I mean, during that day, Brett had asked me, did they come up to you and ask you to do anything? And I said, no, Brett, nobody's talked to me at all. And I did see Earl talking to Briscoe before the match. Oh, he's over there. And this one's a little private conversations. I
Mm.
knew something was going down. I didn't know how it was going down, but it went down. So,
So everyone
but,
was very
it was
aware.
very tense that day. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
very tense day, tense night, tense afterwards for a while, quite a while. And, but
Well,
business moved on. I mean, they looked at Sean as the face of the company moving forward with DX and all that stuff. So,
and
you know,
unfortunately, he got hurt though. About
yeah.
a few months. He was hurt. After Royal Rumble '98, hit that
Mm-hmm.
back on the casket, which led to him eventually leaving WrestleMania 14. And
Stone
that
Cold.
it was Stone Cold, which you were the referee for, and
Right.
yet to me, the Montreal Screwjob. It's like, man, if we only could have foresight and see that Sean's gonna get hurt in about 2 months,
Yeah,
let's not do this with Brett. Can we just figure something out? But obviously, you
right.
can't predict the future. No one
No,
can
you
predict the
can't.
future,
You can't.
unless you're the Wizard, or Johnny Carson. But maybe you could do that. But
You know,
in
you
re-
always think when you lose a guy like Bret Hart and you lost a guy like this guy, and you think, oh my God, like in the 90s when everybody's making that transition to WCW, and fucking here comes Nitro fucking taking off like you wouldn't believe. And
no kidding.
I thought like, holy shit, are we gonna be working for Ted Turner next? Like at one point we almost thought like we were gonna be working, put out of business and working for Ted Turner, but that things and Vince turned shit around again. So Vince is, I don't care what they say about Vince. They can call him a pain in the ass, and he's coming back and doing this, and he's doing it. Where's he ever failed his business? As far as he never put it in bankruptcy, that's for damn sure.
Right.
He went from a millionaire, multi-millionaire, to a multi-billionaire. So I mean, I get maybe they're saying, oh, Vince is frustrating now, but I mean, Vince has always made the right moves. As far as with the wrestling business.
Right. I think everyone always believes that they have the right answer. And then, but the person who's been making the right decisions, one decision, they're like, oh, how could he do that? But what about all the right ones he made? Well, yeah, but that one time, yeah, but that's one time. What about all the
Right,
right ones? You're
right,
only looking at the negative versus the giant pile of positives over here.
right.
Unfortunately, were you shocked when the WWE sold to Endeavor? Because I know I
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Well, I was surprised how much they got. How much, how
You
much they
know?
fucking. I mean, during the pandemic, and I got released and all this, and I think it was like I think Vince went under. Like Forbes came out and said he had reached under $1 billion again. He went under $1 billion,
Yes.
and then he look how fast he bounced back up. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, what 9.6 he sold. But I mean, the company was worth. Then he did the Peacock thing and all this other stuff with the network and then Peacock and then the way he's just making transitions and making the right moves. I mean, now it's worth billions. Unbelievable. You know,
It's crazy. And
there's nobody in the world that does what WWE does, man. I mean, they entertain and put on a hell of a show, especially at WrestleManias and all the pay-per-views
oh my God, yes.
and so on.